Today we're working on the tail wheel of ORV. Now this tail wheel, which is kind of like a standard aircraft installation, what I have a fiberglass tail wheel spring, not readily available, but I happened to have a couple of them when I put this together. That takes care of the flex. I narrowed it down and actually made it thinner than the original. I use this end for spacer for the tension wires, so that'll have to be modified. It's clamped in place here, top and bottom, and this goes into the rudder. So when the rudder moves, let me move the camera here. See that little movement right there? What happens, it puts a lot of wear and tear on there. And the other thing, and one of the reasons I'm changing it, is the other installation is lighter and it gets rid of all of this connections here. So when you're loading it in a trailer, you don't need to take this loose and the one on the other side loose. Now you notice those pins and the way that's bent at an angle, well, that gets some pretty good loads going on there. So we're going to eliminate all that. I'm going to use the same tail wheel on the new tail wheel mounting, and so what we'll do is end up making this a lot easier. Now the operation, instead of coming off of the rudder, will actually come off of the rudder cables, and I'm actually going to replace those rudder cables with a different cable, a smaller cable, and anyway, that won't really make any difference except save a little bit more weight. So anyway, that's what we're working on here today. Now the new installation is this critter right here, and what happens, we'll try to get some better shots of this, but it goes up in the tail post, and it's actually a little simpler and lighter, more responsive, and there's a lot of positives. Anyway, I have one on the other airplane. Denny Celine, back at Oshkosh in 2019 is where I saw this and got the idea, and so we're just developing it one step further here for my legal ORV. Now what we've done is taken a little bit of it apart here. We got rid of this arm here, we got rid of this, we got rid of the spring and the tail wheel and all that. One of the things you might want to notice, that little plate on the bottom that held all that together had a hole in it. Hey, a lightning hole, what an idea. But that's not all. If you look up here, you will also see a lightning hole. Now that lightning hole is not dead center, so I've got to open that up to get my new tail post installation in there, and have to make some changes there. And then this right here will have to be done, removed, and these will have to be replaced. So anyway, that's what we're going to start working on next. But anyway, just little tips of saving a little bit of weight here and there. Those are things you can do. You might also notice I got some holes drilled in up here. Monday morning quarterbacking, I could have probably put a whole bunch more holes and drilled more weight out there, but anyway, there we are. We have made some progress. We got a 1/4-20 set screw. It's got an Allen, a hex on one end, and the other end I turned down. What that'll do is go in and retain the tail wheel in place. And what happens is this little opening right here is where this right here is going to mount. It's going to get welded right there. And what happens what that does is that rides to keep this thing where I want it. I have a roll pin in the top, and I've ground and filed it flat so it doesn't restrict or cause any dragging problems. And anyway, what we're going to do is put this all up and test it before we paint it. So one of the next things we can do is bring the welder over here, clean that up some more, and weld that in place. We've got the tail wheel up under the airplane, and had to make some changes as we progressed along. We had to extend these little arms here. The original arms were down here. That was going to be a conflict with the cabling, so I extended it up here. Now what happens, we've got this up higher, and I do not have springs in here. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but we've done these cables and tied them back into this new piece right there. And anyway, I've tightened this set screw up to keep it from all falling out. So the next thing I need to do is go do some taxi testing and see how that feels. My original purpose for going flying last night was to test out the tail wheel, and it actually worked quite well. Absolutely no complaints. My cable length I might need to adjust, but the tail wheel itself and the way everything's working come out great. So it is definitely an option for those, and it is lighter. Now again, I had a fiberglass tail spring, so if you're going to use a steel tail spring, this would definitely be lighter. This is the final installation of my tail wheel. This is the type that goes up in the vertical tube there. Now my vertical tube is a 3/4 035, and my tail wheel is made out of entirely 049 material. I saved enough weight that I'm still saving about a pound over the other tail wheel. Now the other tail wheel, I had a fiberglass tail wheel spring, which was pretty light. Anyway, this thing is working and doing everything you'd want it to do. I'm real happy with it. So I've got about 5 hours on it now, and it is doing what you would want it to do.